اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب زدني علما، رب زدني علما، رب زدني علما. يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The tongue letters, the Makhaarij and the letters from Al-Lisan. We have covered the non-tip letters and we did discuss about the letters that come from the non-tip, the غير طرف. And I explained that the أقصى اللسان, حافة اللسان, وسط اللسان. These are all the areas of the tongue which come under the non-tip. The letters which were covered under those areas were the Qaf, Kaf, Jim, Shin, Ya, Lam, and the Dad. In today's lesson, inshallah ta'ala, we will cover the tip letters or Taraf al-Lisan huruf. The first one from the tip of the tongue is the letter Noon. So the Makhraj is tip of the tongue with upper gums. So the upper gums is the area which is slightly behind the upper front incisors. So we have the upper front incisors, the top front two teeth or thanaya uliya. These teeth are rooted into the gums. So we're not talking about those gums where these teeth are rooted. We're talking about the area which is slightly under those gums. So it's also called the gum ridge. So this is the makhraj for the letter Noon. Its makhraj is muhaqqaq. You can see muhaqqaq is the makhraj where you can pinpoint the specific area, a letter which is certain. So it's a specific makhraj, you can pinpoint it. The tip of the tongue is touching the upper gums and the letter Noon can be pronounced. Okay, the letter Noon is light letter. It has tarqiq, means the letter doesn't have heaviness. The throat is not narrowed. The tongue is not concaved from the middle, and the sound is not going upward towards the roof of the mouth. In fact, the sound, when you say an, since the tip of the tongue is touching the upper gums, it's blocking the sound to come out straight away, unless you disconnect the tongue from its makhraj by saying noon, noon. If you try to say the letter Noon with the sukoon, and the sound cannot come out from the front. In fact, it goes back and finds its way out from the nasal cavity. As you can see through the arrows, it's been explained. So this would be the sound that comes from the nasal cavity. We call it a ghunna. Okay, so the ghunna is part of the letter Noon. So it's an inherent quality of the letter Noon. The Noon and the letter Mim is always combined with the sifa, the characteristic of the ghunna. So the ghunna for the letter Noon can be heavy or it can be light, but the letter itself is a light letter. So remember, the ghunna is the quality or the sifa, the characteristic of the letter Noon. So that is not a letter. The ghunna is not a letter, it's a quality, it's a characteristic, it's a sift for the letter Noon. The makhraj for the Noon is here, the tip of the tongue and the upper gums. Okay, so now we move on to the letter Ra. The makhraj for the letter Ra is the tip of the tongue with part of its upper surface. So now we need to, it is important point to notice is that not only the tip of the tongue is involved to pronounce the letter Ra, but a part of its upper surface is also involved. So we have point to remember, the tip and more of its upper surface touching the upper gums can be pronounced heavy when it gets a fatha or a dhamma, or it can be light with a kasra under it. It has the sifa of trilling, which is takrar, and it should not be exaggerated. So we got three things here. First is mentioning about its makhraj, and we said that the tip of the tongue and some of its upper surface is used to pronounce the letter ra. So ra is coming from the tip of the tongue. Again, it is also touching the upper gums like the letter noon, but in the case of the ra, the upper surface of the tongue is also used. So the tip and some part of the upper surface is used touching the upper gums to say the letter ra. Can be pronounced heavy or light. So the ra is one of those letters, alif, lam, and the ra, which are sometimes heavy and sometimes light. So a ra as a letter is a light letter, but it can take tafkhim in most of its situations. Briefly here, we can understand by saying that the letter ra would be heavy when it gets a fatha or a dhamma on it. Ra, ru, ra, ru. And it can be light when it gets a kasra under it. Ri, ri. When we say trilling sound, it is because of the reasons that the ra, when it's pronounced, the makhraj is slightly under the letter noon, again from the upper gums, but slightly inwardly under the sound of the letter noon. When you try to say the r, you'll find there is a gap, a tiny gap between the tip of the tongue and the palate, and the sides of the tongue would be touching the upper gums, and the sound gets trilled. So we should not be exaggerating in doing the trilling, like r, r, r. This would be wrong trilling. The right trilling would be a couple of times, the tongue vibrates, and then that's okay, because the sound is finding its way out, it's sneaking out from this tiny gap that we have, as you can see in the picture, this tiny gap between the palate, the upper gums, and the tip of the tongue. So from this side, the tongue is touching the upper gums, but the sound is coming out from here. Ar, ar, ar. So you push back, you throw inwardly your sound. Ar, ar, ar. You flip back your tongue. So this is how the letter ra is pronounced. So the position of the tongue for the letter ra, and when it is mufakham and when it is muraqqaq, is this. For the letter ra, when it is mufakham, you need to know that for every heavy letter, the position of the tongue is almost the same. The back of the tongue is raised towards the palate, throat is narrowed. We have concaving of the tongue from the middle, resulting in the sound being going upward towards the roof of the mouth. This creates an echo in the mouth, and the whole mouth gets filled with the sound of the letter, bringing a heaviness to it. So r, ra, 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 ra. This is a heavy pronunciation of the letter ra. But when we say the ri, it's quite the opposite. No narrowness of the throat, no raising the back of the tongue towards the palate, no concaving in the middle of the tongue. So no echo in the mouth. Therefore, the sound of the letter ra would be light. Okay, we move on to the next tip of the tongue letter, which is the letter ta, ta, and the letter dal. These three letters come from the same makhraj. It is the tip of the tongue. However, the characteristics would be different. So same makhraj, but what makes them different is their characteristics. So let's understand their makhraj first. So for the letter ta, as you can see from here, so pay attention to this part of the tongue, which is the tip of the tongue touching the roots of the upper front incisors. More area of the tip is used, But when you say the letter ta and the dal, which are light letters, not much of the tip is used as is for the ta. For the ta, the back is raised towards the soft palate. Middle of the tongue is concave. So the whole of the tongue, the surface of the tongue and the back, the whole part of it is elevated, leaving a tiny little space between the roof of the mouth and the tongue from here. So here, the tongue is all flat, no raising of the back of the tongue, no narrowing of the throat, and no concaving of the tongue from the middle. So the ta has the characteristic of إطباق, means it has استعلاء, it has تفخيم, and it is amongst those letters which are extra heavy. So from amongst the heavy letters, this is one of those letters which is extra heavy. And you can see when we discuss about the heavy letters, you would see a concaving of the tongue from the middle, but it's not raised from the middle. It's only raised from the back when we talk about the heavy letters. But there are 4 letters where not only the back of the tongue, but also the middle of the tongue gets raised. It's elevated, leaving a small space between the roof of the mouth and the middle of the tongue. It's concaved and raised from the middle and the back. So we have this sound or extra heaviness coming for this letter. When you say the letter ta and the dal, you can see a difference. These are the muraqqaq letters. It has tarqiq. The ta, dal comes out straight away. The sound does not get retained within the mouth. When we compare these 3 letters, we find ta has concaving and heaviness, but the ta and the dal doesn't. So when you say these letters with the sukoon, the ta with the sukoon, you need to bounce the letter. Ato, ato, ato. We call it qalqala, bouncing the letter, and the bouncing would be heavy since the letter ta is heavy. For the letter dal, again, we need to apply qalqala because when the tongue is touching its makhaarij, the roots of the upper front incisors, it's blocking the sound to come out. Ad, ad. So we need to bounce it. Ad. The qalqala or the bouncing would be light because of the reasons that this is a light letter. The letter ta, again, it does block the makhaarij when you touch the tip of the tongue against the roots of the upper front incisors, sanaya ulia, the sound gets blocked. But this has the characteristic of hums. You can disconnect the tongue, the tip of your tongue, from the makhaarij of the root of the front incisors, but you do not need to bounce it. You can let the flow of an air to release the tongue. At. So these are the differences for these letters. I hope this helps. Next makhraj from the tip of the tongue is for the letters Sin, Za, and the Sad. So the makhraj is tip of the tongue with the above of the lower incisors. So for the letter Ta, Dal, and the Ta was the upper incisors with the tip. For these 3 letters, now we're using the lower incisors. So upper incisors and the lower incisors. Here, the tip of the tongue for the letter Sad is touching slightly above the root. Okay, slightly above the lower incisors, almost the teeth. Okay, so when you say the letter Sad, the tip is touching above the lower incisors. Remember, above the lower incisors means not the roots. For the letter Ta, Dal, and the Ta were the roots of the upper incisors. But in this case, it's slightly above the roots of the lower center incisors. The tip will rest against the side. From this part of the tongue, it gets closed to the upper gums. It does not touch it, but it comes close to it because it needs to bring the whistling sound of the sad, which is a characteristic of the safir. As. So this part comes close to the upper gums. Here it's touching the lower incisors. Sad. Sad. As you can see, this is a heavy letter. It has tafkhim. The back of the tongue is raised. The middle is concaved. The whole of the tongue is elevated because it is one of those four letters which are having extra heaviness. But Ta was the first one we learned. Dad also has this quality of extra heaviness, and Sad is extra heavy as well. The letter Sin and the Za are the muraqqaq letters, light letters. It has tarqiq, therefore there is no concaving, no raising of the back of the tongue, no narrowing of the throat. The makhrij is the same like the sad. The tip is touching above the lower incisors, and the sound comes out freely. As, light letters. We can compare them. I explained it already. No, for the za and the sin, there is no concaving of the tongue. So there is concaving of the tongue. No echo of the sound in the mouth for the za and the sin. There is echo of the sound for the sad. There is no narrowing in the throat for the za and the sin, and the throat is narrow for the sad. No elevation of the tongue for the za and the sin, and for the letter sad, sound and the back of the tongue is elevated. So if you just remember the four things to compare, the heaviness, what causes the heaviness are the four things: narrowing of the throat, raising the back of the tongue, concaving of the tongue, and echo in the mouth. So if these four conditions are met, then the sound will automatically become heavy. Okay, so this is the sign of a tafkhim in a letter. If any of those four are not fulfilled, it means that the sound is one of the tarqiq letters, means it has the sound is light for the letters. So this is how you can compare between the light and the heavy letters. The sifa makes the letters different, which share the same makhraj. For the letter sin, as I said, the sound and the breath continues. As. For the za, only the sound continues, it doesn't have a breath. As. But for the letter sad, again it is a heavy, but breath and sound continues. As. I hope this helps. We have another set of letters coming from the tip of the tongue, the letter sa, zal, and va. It is the tip of the tongue touching the lower part of the upper incisors. So the tip of the tongue touching what? The lower part of the upper incisors, means the edges of the upper incisors. You will notice that the tip of the tongue is slightly out. So it should be visible to the one who can see it. Okay? The tip of the tongue should be visible to the others. When you say these letters, the letter Zal and the Tha are light letters. It has tarqiq. The letter Va is one of the heavy letters, extra heavy letters, and it has tafkhim. All those four criteria, the concaving, the raising of the back, and the narrowing of the throat is present in the letter Va, and it is one of those extra heavy letters. For the letter Zal and the Tha, opposite to the letter Va is flat tongue, no concaving, no raising of the back, no narrowing of the throat. These can be pronounced from the same place, but the position of the tongue differs for these two images. You can see it. When you're saying the letter Va and the Zal, the students do make a mistake when they're using the letter Zal, like A'udhu. So be careful when you're reading the letter Zal with the Dhamma, because for the Dhamma, our tongue gets elevated from the back slightly, which can change the letter Zal into the Va. So what we need to do is that we need to be careful pronouncing the light and do not change it into the Va sound. Do not let the letter Zal, when you're saying it with the haraka, get mixed up with the Va. So keep your tongue flat, and when you saying the letter dal with a dhamma, unround your lips first, and then you need to instantly round and unround, like dhu, dhu. So start from unround lips, and then after making a sound, end with the rounded lips. This will help you to avoid mixing the letter dal with the dha. I hope so this helps. So when you say the letter tha, you need to let the air flow. So sa, sa, there's a lot of air for the letter sa. There is no air, no extra air for the letter zal and the dha. As I said, that the makhrij is the same, but their characteristics make them different. So all four conditions on top is mentioned: concaving, no concaving for the zal and the sa. For the dha it is. No echo of the sound in the mouth for the zal and the sa. For the dha it is. No narrowing in the throat for the zal and the sa, but it is there for the letter dha. No elevation of the back of the tongue for the zal and the sa, but it is for the letter dha. The sifat I mentioned, for the zal only the sound runs. For the sa, both the sound and the breath runs. So as. For the dha, only the sound runs. Oh, oh, oh. I hope this helps. Now we move on to Ashafatan. So before I start with that, I would like to explain, since the tongue has slightly complicated explanation of the Makhaarij and the letters, I like to explain and conclude the letters from the tongue we have covered so far. So the tongue letters have been completed. So just as a review for your ease, inshallah, I'll explain what we've discussed on the tongue. So we said we have 18 letters in total for the tongue, 7 from the non-tip and 11 from the tip. Altogether we had 18 letters. We had 5 makharij for the non-tip and 5 makharij for the tip. So look at the letters. These are the 7 letters which is from the non-tip. Look, the tip is here, and all of these letters spread across the tongue is a non-tip area. So total is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. These are the 7 letters from the non-tip. And look at the makharij. They are the 5 makharij. So qaf has 1 makhraj. Under the qaf is the kaf. So 1 makhraj from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Jim, sheen, and the ya is 1 makhraj. Qaf is 1, kaf is 1. They are separate makharij. Jim, sheen, and the ya is from the 1 makhraj middle of the tongue. Dad, right or the left. It's a 1 makhraj. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So again, the near edges of the tongue. We have 5 makharij for these 7 letters, and these letters are from the non-tip. I hope this helps. From the tip of the tongue, again, we need to look and count the makharij and the letters, and I'll explain you how. Here, from the tip of the tongue, we said 5 makharij for 11 letters, and how they are counted, it's like this. So the tip of the tongue, 1 makhraj for the letter noon, 1 makhraj for the letter ra. They are from the tip, okay, from this tip. So 1, 2, 1 makhraj for the letter ta, dal, and the ta, 1 makhraj for the letter sin, za, and the sad, 1 makhraj for the letter sa, dal, and the dha. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 makharij for these 11 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Altogether 11 letters, 5 makharij from the tip of the tongue. For the letter Nun and the Ra, look at here how from the tip it needs to touch the upper gums. These are the upper gums, An and R, An and the R. So these are the upper gums. Therefore, for your help and understanding, I have prepared this picture to show you the difference. Okay, for the letter Nun, Ra, and all of the other letters. So with this, we come to the end of the Makhaarij from Al-Lisan and their letters. Inshallah, from in the next lesson, inshallah ta'ala, I'll cover the letters from Ash-Shafatan and Al-Khayshum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.